they had a setting where they've decided to switch it off. So this is what these guys have done, and yeah, Yahoo link wasn't showing. So I've just gone crazy and made sure this was fixed ASAP.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny though that somebody asked for an opinion. Clint offered one, and they said, "Oh, because Madge is a sponsor on his show. Of course, he's going to suggest Madge. Not because he's used you or because he realizes there's extra value that you don't get strictly from a press release distribution
Yeah.
sort of stuff." But I thought it was cute.
Well, I knew that I probably should have shut up when I got asked what is syndication. I mean, yeah, but it is what it is. Just being
Hmm.
helpful, turning over a new leaf instead of calling people assholes and dumbasses. I'm trying to be
Being
helpful.
helpful and getting called an asshole and
Exactly.
All right, so welcome everyone to another episode of SEO Fight Club. I just want to remind you to ask questions, suggest topics. It's all open. So let's see. We just came back from SEO spring training, which I think was one of the best ever. I heard that the tech mastermind wasn't necessarily the best ever, but the presentations and definitely the shop talk at the hotel bar blew my mind this year. So I thought it was a really good year for content. What did you think, Clint?
I liked it. I mean, I had to take my dog with me, so I didn't get a whole lot of networking done, but it was good seeing old faces and some new faces and meeting people. So
And I'd like to mention that your dog is totally awesome. I've never seen such a polite yet shy dog like that. It's just like cool to to see. At one point, a bunch of people came around you, and the dog got nervous and hid behind your legs. It was just cool. That's a really nice dog.
yeah, that was a lot for her. She was horrible the first day, barking in the room and stuff, and got me in trouble with the hotel. But after that, she was fine.
Um, let's see. We have somebody saying that they're gutted that they couldn't make it. Eventually all secrets come to light. So, don't feel bad if you couldn't afford it or you had schedule conflicts.
Nope,
You know,
feel
the
bad. Work harder.
yeah, the thing about conferences is you have to be at the right place in your journey to really do them and take advantage of them. If you're not going to be able to pay your bills because you went to a conference, then you shouldn't be going to it. And I had those moments in my life where I really wanted to go to conferences, but I couldn't afford it at the time. And that's okay. It just is what it is. Typically, when you want to start looking at conferences, is when you know your skills are out of date and you're trying to get caught up quickly, trying to get state of the art. The other thing is when you know you don't have enough expenses and you can either give it to the government or invest in yourself. Uh, but yeah, don't skip paying the utility bills to do a conference. That's never the right answer. And oh, it's Holly. She knows all this shit. So that was for everyone else. Holly threw out her back. She was going to speak, and everyone was gutted that Holly didn't speak. So that was a bilateral uh, emotion there.
That's what you get for carrying 500 phones around.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So yeah, Travis is hoping I'll present it, not for a bit. And the reason I'm not doing it for a bit is it's Clint's fault. Because I presented and I thought, what I was presenting was going to be jaw dropping because to me, it kind of illustrates that the SEO that the world is doing is at least 50% fucked up. And the tools that the industry is using are not reliable. And the data that people are working with doesn't mean what they think it means. And so to me, that's like huge. Clint was totally bored with my presentation. So there's a disconnect. Either I'm not delivering this message right, or I don't know, it's possible I could be overreacting, I guess. So I want to reevaluate my slides and figure out how the hell I bored the shit out of Clint. Any comments?
Ken, it's
I-
possible that you just over-delivered. After the first two slides, Clint was like, wow, that's amazing. And then anything else was just piling on and wasn't helpful to him at that point.
No, I was ready for a nap.
So,
I liked it. The information was good. And if you're asking for an honest critique, it was really your presentation. Like the way you delivered it. You changed your pacing, you changed how you delivered information and stuff, and it was almost like you're having a conversation, but you would make a point and then just leave it dangling, like, and then you did that a lot. So that was
all
the only
right.
that was
So
my critique.
I fucked up the delivery.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you see, it, if I don't get the right response out of people, I gotta go check my facts. That's what we do. If a lot of people did like it, but yeah, maybe I did flub the presentation a little.
And in your defense, you were first, so
Yeah, that's true.
you didn't get a chance to see other people and get their nerves out. I couldn't imagine going first. I would be horrible going first. I
Well,
get
the
here's your 30-minute timer, and I'd be done in 15 minutes because I would talk so fast.
Yeah, the other thing against me is it was new information, so it's not like something I've talked about in the past and I had the script down. That's
Yeah.
so new information for the first time is also rough. Let's see. Um, Looking at the news. There's one here where the Google Site command is displaying AI overviews, which is really interesting. I think that's probably a mistake on Google's part. So that's probably an unnecessary cost, but I bet it's a pretty small mistake. I mean, how many people as a percentage of total traffic use site operators? So.
I think it just goes to show you that it's turned on and the system that's controlling it has gone full retard.
Yeah. And otherwise, there's really not a lot coming out of Google. And so Google's awfully silent right now. And, that was part of my talk is why is Google being abnormally quiet when they're normally so happy to call SEOs morons and say that tactics that are currently ranking sites don't work. Where is all of that chatter?
It's because Justice Department has them by the balls right now, and so they're they're probably telling their spokespeople, "Hey, shut up unless we want to send out a unified message about something."
Yeah, I could see that. Or they've gotten away with something and they don't want us to see it.
Well, as an example, Google Extended. You use Google Extended and you block it to keep Gemini and DeepMind from using your content. The implication is that Gemini and or DeepMind is pushing AI overviews. And in a Justice Department release inside of the court documents, it actually turns out that Googlebot is the one that's running the AI overviews, and it's ignoring Google Extended, and they're using your data to train their models anyway. And when someone picked up on it, they actually had to delete about half of their data because it was all data that should not have been used as part of the AI overview system. So that's pretty enlightening to know that Gemini and AI overviews are two completely different systems. And just because you're in one doesn't mean you're going to show up in the other one. And it goes back to when we did that panel talk. If you want to show up in AI overviews, you got to rank. And if you don't want to show up in AI overviews, you block Googlebot completely because that's generally the only way you're going to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So that also harkens back to an earlier piece of advice we've given before, which is if you're very strict with your robots.txt, there's a lot of user agents out there you need to not block in order to be in these various different language models. So you kind of got to rethink your robots.txt strategy because the legacy from last year and back, that robots.txt, if it's overly strict, it's probably shooting you in the foot going forward. And it's probably the reason you're not in the language models right now is because you blocked all bots except for Google. And so you might want to take a look at that if you haven't already. All right. So I don't have much of a topic here. We can either talk about topics that the viewers want. So shout out a topic if you want us to talk about something. Or we could do kind of like an ecom audit where I walk us through an ecom site and just point out things that people have overlooked. Any thoughts from the co-hosts here on what we should talk about before I start?
If there's somebody wanting a particular topic, that's something they don't get that opportunity to offer up very often. So I would say take them up on it if there's such a thing.
All right. Well, we'll get to questions in a bit. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And John was wondering, what's your overall advice to appear in ChatGPT and Perplexity? Well, ChatGPT is going to be Bing, right? So Bing and Common Crawl. You mentioned about Perplexity, didn't you, Clint, at the event?
Yeah, Perplexity is doing rankings too. So you got to be in the search engines. You got to rank somewhere where they can find you, and then you'll get referenced in there.
All right, sterling, silver, amethyst, bracelet. All right, look at all that crap. Let's go to page 5. These are dead websites. Let's look at. I like their photo, so I'm going to look at Shin Brothers. Okay, so they ranked a product page. They're thin on the upselling, so they have related products, and you may also like, but the intent was to find sterling silver amethyst bracelets. So if they have multiple products that meet that description, I'd like to see other sterling silver amethyst bracelets, and that's going to bulk up the exact match and entities and LSIs. I'd like to see other amethyst bracelets, other amethyst products, other sterling silver gemstone bracelets. You know, you could have carousels for a lot of things that are more closely related to what the searcher was looking for. So that's a big missed opportunity. And often these pages are thin content, and carousels, while they show for, they can often have a great deal more than for in the source code. So you could potentially have 100 products in these scrollable carousels and really beef up the page. Um, Another thing we'd want to think about is keywords worth winning and names of things. So when I look at this, I really like the product name. That's really good. But when I look at their navigation, there are things I don't like because they're going to try to win keywords that really probably aren't worth winning. Because, winning earrings, that might be custom jewelry, that might be low dollar jewelry. I'd rather be targeted for a lower traffic keyword with better targeting. And these are site-wide links. So I would want to focus on anchor text that's exact match keywords that gets very targeted traffic for what they're doing. And so a lot of these are missing the mark. Um, let's see, what else do we see here? Conjoined categories, where categories might go by two names, or you're combining two product categories into one. Generally bad because you lose the exact match on it. So I would take the better targeting of the two and use that. But again, I'd like to get more specific. So if these are black diamond bracelets, the exact match should be black diamond bracelets. That would be a better anchor here and would probably pass more relevancy through that link. And we do strongly believe that the relevancy of the anchor and the relevancy of the page it's coming from play a role in the authority that gets passed through. So, in those cases, you definitely want to reconsider naming things like this. You also want to be careful about things like new arrivals. Let's see if they have any of that. I don't see a lot of that. New arrivals and bestsellers are also ones that can get you because you can have it be, new gemstone jewelry or best-selling uh, pearls. There are ways of getting keywords that are very targeted because if you win new arrivals by itself, I mean that's new arrivals for books and cooking utensils and everything. There's no point on winning the keyword new arrivals. So definitely niche down on your anchor text and it'll probably serve you better and give you a target you can reasonably win. Um, all right, let's go back and look at that product page again. Or we'll just go to jewelry here. Let's go to rings. All right. One thing I'd like to see here is more FOMO in the product tokens. So if I was designing my store, I'd figure out a way to say if we're down to 10 units or less of something, I want to see in red text nearly sold out. Because that's the most powerful text you can put on a product if it's legitimately nearly sold out. Same thing if you have promotions, they should be top of the screen and very big. So if there's free shipping on orders over $50, then say free shipping on orders over $50 today only. It should be really big and obvious. Let's go ahead and
Can
add
I
this.
can
Go
I
ahead.
something? Scroll back up. I don't like all the way to the top. So you get to this page, right? And it says rings. Where does it talk about rings? The H1 and then the first word when that first second sentence right up to the top. There's no rings. Like, what is it? What's it about? What's in it for me? And I want to go to a page about rings and it's not showing rings. Talk who they are. I don't care. They're custom watches, custom jewelry. That doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm looking for rings and I'm shopping, I think the conversion would be a lot better if it actually listed or showed off some rings.
Yeah, like they have a top navigation here that has everything, and then they're promoting categories here. And then they have a banner graphic for the category. Then they have, some safety text here. And then these are sorts and filters. So faceted nav,
Yeah. If
subcategories.
that paragraph was gone, that faceted nav would be up and it would show when you first get to the page, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That would make more sense than what they have going.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see, I just clicked add to cart and it's saying nothing in my cart. Let's try this again. Are you clicking? Hey, it took like 7 clicks, but I finally got one. So they need to check that add to cart from the category page. And check this out. We have a product in our cart. We're ready to go. Where's the checkout button? Where is it? I mean, this is really bad. The most obvious thing on every page should always be the next step towards the conversion. So add to cart, if there's nothing in the cart, should be the most obvious next thing to do. If you have something in your cart, checkout should be the next obvious thing to do. And it should be a big bright button so that you know where it is and what it is. It should probably be the biggest button in the site, right? Because that's how you get order completion. And it's not here. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
whole thing on the menu, you click here to schedule an endpoint or version. That's such wasted space for CRO.
yeah, I'd rather have a jumbotron checkout button. I think that would help them better.
Yep.
So all right, let's click on the cart. All right, so there is a checkout now. It's pretty muted and a view cart. Let's view the cart. Your cart. So yeah, here we are in the cart. Checkout buttons at the bottom of the page. Why not let them check out when they get here? So yeah, their conversion funnel is making people scroll to work. And so yeah, they definitely need to hire a CRO to go through some of this stuff. All right. So here is a remove button. Let's inspect it. All right. So I like the fact that they're using an actual button because that button tag Googlebot won't interact with. So that's a good sign that their web development is done in a way that should minimize the possibility of infinite crawls. Let's go back to the faceted nav and check those things. All right. So let's sort by size. So that takes us to a URL. All right, sort by size 6. All right, you know what's better than this sort by size 6 is if we go back to jewelry, let's go to rings. All right. If there are available sizes and some of them could be sold out, I would put the sizes you have in stock and I would make a little tiny note that the red ones are nearly sold out, because then you can know they're nearly sold out of size 5s and you need to buy it right now if you want to get it, or it may not be here when you come back. So, give people useful information. Like if you can get this ring in, 4 different gemstones, then let people know which gemstones, which options are still in stock. And you're doing all this product comparison and add to cart from the category token. That's all custom development crap. So do some custom development that's actually useful for making a product purchase decision. And I see this all the time in like apparel. People will find a shirt they like and they'll click in to see, oh, this one's not in my size. And then they click back. They go to the next shirt they like only to find out it's sold out in my size again. And they click back and it just becomes this really monotonous punishment to find something you can actually use on the site. So showing available sizes is probably the most important customization you can do in a category like this. All right. So SEO for category pages. A lot of people think they have to go nuts with the safety text that repeats on all paginated category pages. You don't really have to do that. What you can do is you can make a hover, and right now they're putting in the product name a second time into the title attribute, but you could actually put a short description from the CMS in there, or you could create a short description and a hidden div that will display nicely in the white space when you hover. And if you get short descriptions into the source code for all the products, that's a lot of text. And then your SEO for the category pages becomes how many products per page. More SEO, less SEO. Just change the number. And usually that trick works wonders. And so, yeah, sometimes what you can do is you can load 100 products per page into the source code, but then only dynamically scroll them in. Lazy load, but they're all in the source code. It's only lazy load on the presentation of what you brought into the source. And that way, all 100 products get SEO, but people get an animated treatment with easing or whatever you want. I don't think it's really necessary to do all that fancy crap. I think people appreciate, 50 or 100 products per page because it's less, clicking and pagination. So just do it. Then you have 50 or 100 short descriptions and product names and all the entities and LSI that go with it. Really simple, really white hat, definitely a good way to go. All right, we'll look at a couple more things here. Let's see if we can.
What are they doing with the titles? So hover over a ring and Shin Brothers star star. Hover over the next ring. Shin Brothers Jewelry Incorporated. Hover over the
Oh,
next ring.
yeah, they're
Like
not being
pick a fucking
consistent
brand
with.
name.
Yeah. You got to be strict with your brand because Google's going to A/B test all the incarnations of the brand you use.
Shin
And so
Brothers
here it is,
are.
a third one. So 3 brands.
And then why put
4
that?
brands.
Why put that there? And then it's also in the H1 on the pages. That doesn't make
Yeah.
it.
5 brands. Yeah, this is not good brand management. So yeah, you need to be super strict with URLs and with your brand mentions so that Google gets it right the first time and everywhere. So yeah, they need to clean that up in a hurry. Let's sort by A to Z. All right. So we now see we have a sort equals alpha ascending. So I'm going to copy that sort, or actually, I'm going to copy the domain. Can remember sort. I'm going to go over here to Google. Let's say site colon brand name and URL sort equals. Well, pagination's okay. But let's see what else is in there. Sort by stone. All right, so let's use the alpha ascending because it found those dedicated URLs that are types of sorts, and those, depending upon implementation, may be totally fine. All right, so it didn't find alpha ascending. Let's just try that by itself. All right, so they don't have Googlebot playing with these sorts. That's a good thing. Get the view type here, so that looks like a JavaScript thing. All right, let's go to page 4 and check the canonical. Next prev is fine. Complicated URLs. Let's see. Where's that canonical? Hope they have a canonical. There it is. All right, they're doing the right thing here. They're canonicalizing page 4 to itself. So that's the correct. What I didn't want to see was them canonicalizing page 4 to page 1, which would teach Google to not trust your canonicals. So this is the correct thing. And the reason why you do this is that canonical URLs are all about the unique content of the page. It is the most correct URL for the unique content of the page. And page 1 and page 4 have different unique content. So if you canonicalize the page 4 products to the page 1 products, you're in fact just lying. So page 4 canonicalizes to itself. That's the correct way. All right. So with that, let's get to some questions, and then we'll probably call it an early show unless there's enough topics to keep it alive.
A question on the pagination topic for you is in regards to WordPress. All the SEO plugins override it, and all pagination in WordPress is essentially canonical to the, let's use categories, for example. All paginages are canonicalized to the first category page. You found a way to override that, or have you found a way to override that so that SEO plugins won't do that
Well, if the SEO plugins haven't been obfuscated by their developers, it's kind of like minifying code. They will rename all the variables to single letter gibberish and minify everything so you can't understand the code and what it does. As long as they haven't done that obfuscation to the plugin code, you should probably hire a developer and just tweak it so it behaves the way it should. You have to remember that WordPress developers are web developers in essence, and it doesn't mean they know SEO. So a lot of these plugins are built by people who know how to develop websites and work with databases, but they haven't ranked a lot of web pages. So, unfortunately, some plugins are better than others, and custom development is usually the most expensive way to get exactly what you want. And so it's not great choices, but that's where we're at with third-party platforms. It's a good question, and there's no great answer to it unless somebody knows of a plugin that fixed that. Let's see. WordPress development is a good one to offshore. So if you did have to tweak the behavior of a plugin, I'd imagine that would be less than a week of work for, a WordPress dev. So, depends what it's worth to you too. All right, let's see. Google seems to be favoring home pages in my niche right now. If that's on local, Google didn't pick those URLs, the businesses did. And additionally, if that's on local, whatever URL you configure in the profile is the only URL that can appear for all your keyword rankings for that GBP. So be sure to not make the false assumption of assuming Google likes home pages. All my homepage ranks for all my keywords. Therefore, I should put all my keywords on my homepage. That's the classic local mistake. That's not how it works. Any thoughts on that, Clint?
No, he's asked and had answers to that for like a month now in your Skype group, so I'm over that question.
Yeah. And if you need more help than that, just book a meeting with me. We can look at it together. I don't mind. Something seemed to flip this week. I had a site go from 3 indexed back to 2,900. What does that mean? I had a site go from 3 indexed back to 2,900. Maybe he means 290.
I'm thinking it's probably the reporting and search console is jacked up. That's what I would lean toward.
Yeah. If you're really worried, get some data. Find out what's different between your page and the higher ranking competitors. I wouldn't put it past Google to change the weighting of the factors, but you'd need data to really know. If there was a big change or deployment for the website around the time this happened, you may check to see if the drop in the deployment line up. Because sometimes we make changes and introduce technical issues. What are the ways you incorporate info gain in your articles? Do you do so in a systematic way? Well, I know for a fact that there is a precedent of Google looking for helpful content. And I'm not talking about the helpful content update, which is some nebulous bullshit that nobody can prove what the hell it is. I'm talking about it around that time, Google started adding little snippets of useful information to the search results. And a lot of that is harder to find now. But the fact that they showed it means that Google was searching the web for it. They were parsing it when they saw it. They were storing it in absolutely massive big data databases, and they were sometimes presenting it in the search results. And so, to me, I feel it's a very small leap of faith to think that they might also be scoring with that too. And so those were things like pros and cons and ingredient lists, and information like that was really the thing that I was seeing. And so if you did queries like the benefits of protein powder, you would see this information being specifically highlighted. Let's take a look at it. Benefits of protein powder. I'm not sure if we'll still see it, but let's take a look. It's been a while. So now we have entity cards for the benefits of protein powder. So check that out. You want some relevant entities for this keyword? Boom. Thank you, Google. Google gave us their own internal answer. And many of these will have sub entities. So these can actually be a tree that you can navigate down. And when you look at these, let's see if they still have it in the source code. They have an MRE ID, and look what they call it, entity ID, data hyphen entity name. All right. So Google using entities, debate's over. All right, let's see. So here it's quoting a list. But I'm looking for a specific presentation, primarily the pros and cons presentation they had from before. And yeah, I'm not seeing the pros and cons presentation. So it looks like they're not presenting the helpful content currently. But that doesn't mean they aren't collecting it and using it. So yeah, if I was looking for information gain, I'd be looking for the kinds of information that are being hinted here, best use, pros and cons, benefits of, common problems. Those are the things I'd be looking for. And those things are often not the main content. So you have your article for your page, let it be what it needs to be to sell whatever you're selling. You can rank the whole page from supplemental content of this helpful content because they're typically lists of things. So have accordions, the benefits, the pros and cons, common problems with, what to consider when using, common side effects. Those are relevant supplemental content pieces. All right. Anything else to contribute on that?
I think of info gain as you're adding more up-to-date information to your article piece. So if Terry writes an article about OpenAI and its models, an information gain edit would be to remove the models that they depreciated and add the models that they didn't. And that's information gain. So in regards to a systematic way to do that is the pages that are getting a lot of traffic and conversions for you, and then they drop and you go in and you go through that process to regain your rankings, and then you can do the same process for pages that you wrote, promoted, i.e. built backlinks for, and they didn't get any traction. You can try an information gain process to make it more relevant. But in regards to systematic, you just got to figure out the SOP and how you want to chase those down.
Yeah, one systematic trick is for like that jewelry site we were looking at. You could run a prompt for uh, write a list of 100 things to consider when taking care of your sterling silver amethyst bracelet. And then you go through and put in a template keyword over sterling silver amethyst bracelet, and you replace whatever category of product they're looking at in the jewelry section. And now you have programmatic horizontal SEO that will give you care instructions for, the gold ruby earrings and the platinum sapphire pendant, because all of those things, they're going to have the same care instructions. They're just tuned for a different exact match keyword. So that would be a systematic way to do it for ecom.
I've got a client who deals with a particular piece of hardware tech that's used in the legal industry. And every year they check for updates to the law and its use or non-use, depending on situations, and just have updates on their page. And it's generally that update is most of the time put on the same page every year, but occasionally another page that is dropped, they'll say, let's throw the updates on that. And it, seems to help give them a little bump, because there's some change in most of the information's current, but its uses are now slightly differently controlled by the law. So not as programmatic, but it is something they know that there's regular, the state Senate gets together regularly and stuff like that. So they know when their stuff is going to be addressed.
Let's see. Did that one. All right. Topic. PR and or link stacking versus PRs and or links to the page needing links. So this is kind of a link geometry question. Press releases and stacking, to my understanding, are just methodologies of tiered link building. So you're adding a tier. So link's a link. I like getting them. You have to have a really good reason to say no to a link, because the whole page rank system is built on averages. So you need an awful lot of average backlink quality backlinks, and those averages are quite low. So yeah, I'd say that the finding the perfect geometry of your silo is, it might work, but it's probably not your best use of time. So I think it's not minimum viable SEO. Not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying if you want to do the least amount of SEO to rank a page, that one might not be the best opportunity. What do you think, Clint?
I'd be 100% honest. I wasn't paying attention. I was writing some notes from an idea I had from the questions.
Yep. Okay. The question was PR and or link stacking, or PRs or links to the page needing links. It sounds like a geometry of silo question.
Yeah, I mean, I like doing PRs. Obviously, we all sponsor Madge, so I think there is value to those, but you don't have to go nuts. Like you can get let's say a 500 PR syndication. You get 500 links, but I wouldn't stack to all of those. I would stack to the more valuable ones, and you can see that and judge that based off of the indexing consistently. Couple of reasons for that. One, just it's too much if you're doing 500. That's a lot of work to do. And then two, most of those 500, irregardless of the service you use, are going to drop within 6 months. Wouldn't you say that's right, Madge? Especially those API syndicated ones, they drop. So I say do it, but be smart about it and don't create unnecessary work for yourself.
Yeah, you're right. After 6 to 9 months, the low DR ones, the ones with less traffic, tend to drop off, whereas the likes of Yahoo, AP News, Globe Newswire will tend to stay around. And if you build some links to them and some power to them, they'll stick around for a lot longer.
All right. So please talk about your spring training topic, how the SEO tools aren't correct, or even give us a snippet from it. Well, it's not that the tools aren't necessarily correct, it's that they're giving you an implied understanding of the situation that is false. So I'm going to give you one Easter egg, and then I'm not talking about it this show. You can ask next week for another snippet. All right, so let me share my screen again. Okay, and here we go. So I'm going to go to sterling, silver, amethyst bracelet. All right. Here's number one. Number two. This is actually better than it was the last time I checked. And let me click over here. Page down. There's 3. Page down. There's 4. Page down. There's 5. Page down. There's 6, 7, 8. Page down. There's no organic. Page down. That's it. So what we had here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 and a bit. We have supposedly 10 blue links spread across 7.2 pages. So when you find out that you rank number, 6, what does that mean if you're out on page, 5 to 7 with a number 6 ranking? What can you infer from your rank trackers? It's like the only values that matter anymore in a rank tracker are 1s and 2s. And a lot of the time, not even that. So all those ranks you're tracking, what do they mean? All right. Next nugget drop next week on my presentation, but there's one. All right.
This is something that I was like, I want to scream this out at you so bad. It's like you change the definition of a page in order to support your argument.
Yeah, Google did too. Google did too.
Yeah.
They put a bunch of shit above it, they
They
put a
changed
bunch
the
of shit below.
presentation of the web page.
Yeah.
So if you go to SEOtools.com and then do you consider that a page? When you open that up, your homepage shows up. So is your homepage what shows up above the fold before you scroll down, or is it your homepage the entire page? Right? So while I understand what you're trying to illustrate, and you had to have a common vernacular to illustrate it so that everyone would understand it. Like that's a page, right? But as soon as you scroll down, did that become another page? And that's essentially how you're using page in your presentation. Right?
Well, yeah,
Change the definition of it.
Page up and page down, but the more work you make somebody do with vertical scrolling, you can't tell me that, page up, page down, this portion of the page up, page down is going to get a lot more engagement then
And the bottom,
then the
of the
bottom
same
of that,
page,
you
right?
know.
Yeah, the
And
bottom of the same page.
so
So I
Google's
don't know that there's a better way to illustrate what you're like. Go back to your search silver amethyst search. I don't know that there's a better way to illustrate. Hey, they put all of these featured snippets, they put all these carousels and everything in order to
oh,
bury the page. Like,
there
what is
is. You
a
could
better termination or terminology than just page? Because
yeah,
technically, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, the page numbers are listed there. You're on the same page.
yeah,
As soon as
yeah,
you go to number two, you're on a new page. So,
yeah. And
what is a better
in my
description
presentation, I called it effective page if you're using
than,
page
yeah,
downs and actual page if you're doing page two.
yeah.
But again, this problem is real and it's here today. So I know we like to hang on to our legacies that your, 6 through 10 rankings are page one, but they aren't performing like that anymore. And some of your ones and twos aren't performing like they're page one anymore. They're effectively page twos and threes.
I would
And
also like to point out, though, that none of these are new. They've been there for years. So, unless you're new, you probably already noticed this. You know what I mean?
this one is
They're just
new as of
getting.
this year.
I think what they did is
This one, well,
they
that's
made it
images.
worse,
That's
right?
been there. This one is new of this year.
Right, but it's the product carousel.
And
Product, they've always used it. They just, hey, there's new implementation.
and these ones won't show up if you're incognito. If you're headless Chrome, these ones won't even appear.
Right.
So technically, you're doing SEO for bots and tools because the logged in users are seeing different results.
Yeah.
And that all I'm saying is there's a big problem here. And I know 99% of the world is going to say, "Well, I get rankings my way, nothing's changed." More power to you. I'm seeing this going, "Holy shit, half your keywords aren't worth the work you're putting into them because you're not looking at how Google is treating them for human beings." And I think it's a much bigger deal than people realize.
Well, I think honestly that this should all be identified when you're doing your keyword research in the first place. And if you're not doing keyword research properly and seeing that carousels, like in this particular search, if you don't have Google, the Merchant Center feed set up, then you're a moron, right? But you should know that before you start going into rank trackers and selecting which words to put in your rank tracker, etc.
Yeah.
It just pisses me off to no end that everyone's idea of keyword research is downloading a set of keywords and looking at search volume and going, that's my target. They're skipping the most important part, which is the process that you're illustrating now.
Yeah.
Like, these are the other things you got to compete with.
Yeah. Is there a traffic opportunity or is number one on effective page three? And is it cost effective to go after it given that number one is on effective page three? That's a big deal. Yeah, and I think there, things like rank trackers doing the organic rankings of the 10 blue links, I don't think it means very much. I'd much rather have a pixel height from top on where the search results were and where the fold was in the browser. Because if you're doing this on a 5K monitor, you have more fold to work with than if you're doing it on a laptop monitor. So
I
page up,
wonder
page down changes.
if that would be practical too, because you've found the difference between signed in, signed out, and incognito. Is there a difference between Terry doing the search, Ted doing the search, and Mads doing the search? Do they get different presentations? If that's the case, your wish of there, you would have, it would be so personalized that rank tracking, et cetera, would be, it wouldn't be if,
Here's
it wouldn't be
here's
a
how it needs
feasible business model.
Here's how it needs to happen. It needs to be multiple samples of verified logged in users. All right. And those user accounts can't be your user account because you've already corrupted the history by clicking things. So they need to be accounts that never click but search, but that's going to emulate somebody searching for a solution for the first time.
So you made it completely, honestly, not feasible unless you
Well,
build a custom thing and you create your accounts in your own markets. And then by your own admission, if I create accounts in my own markets, I'm changing the personalization and the history, which would
well,
in
you're
turn would
going with
change
no
the
history,
display.
no personalization.
Yeah. So every time you did rank tracking, you'd have to create brand new Google accounts.
Yeah, but by the time somebody has searched for plumbers 10 times and clicked on a few of them, they're already getting that personalized response. So I'm looking
Exactly.
for the people who haven't done that I can actually capture.
Yeah.
Because I can't change the personalization, but I can change that first appearance.
Right. So my point is that let's assume that everything you said is true. And I have no reason to say it's not. But if you're now forsaking all rank trackers, right? The method, the way you solve the problem, it's not feasible as a business model.
I think it is. I think the technology just hasn't been coded. Like you can go to a website and buy 500 phone verified Google accounts. And in fact, you probably are going to need to at some point because the other thing the world doesn't know is all these dynamic content widgets Google has, they have volatility. So some of these things are going to be present 20% of the time, some of them are present 100% of the time. So there's actually going to be volatility in vertical position because of feature inclusion. And so you're actually going to need multiple samples to figure out what to expect on your vertical positioning of your result and which on-page channels do you have representation in. And so there's multiple things you need to track. So it should be pointing out you're doing good in these channels. You've neglected those channels. You have, two appearances above the fold and 7 appearances below the fold. You rank better incognito, but we know there are more human beings signed in mobile.
Yeah.
Um,
So my point is, you said you can go out and buy 500 Gmails. Let's put our business hat on. We created a tool. Let's say Cora had a rank tracker.
yep.
You would have to buy 500 Gmails, what, on average every week
No,
to 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 eliminate personalization,
these 500 ones are never clicking a result. There's nothing to personalize.
but they're searching. It still remembers the searches inside of Google. It remembers
Yeah, but it
your
doesn't know
search
how to
history,
favor a result. If you
but it
never
will see the
click
pattern.
anything, it doesn't know how to favor something.
Hmm.
And so these would be accounts that are verified but never click. They only look like a first time human visitor saying, "This is the first time my roof has leaked. I need a roofer." And that's probably the best we can get for rank tracking is the behaviors and the presentation of those.
To
And I'm
account
not
for.
even opposed to getting both incognito and logged in,
Yeah.
because then you got your best understanding of how Google presents for a keyword in any situation. But current rank trackers telling you you're number 6, what does
Well,
that
they
mean?
haven't been right forever. Anyone who's ever paid attention knows that they're not right anyway, irregardless of because of variance and
Yeah,
then
but
because
even
of
even if it was right, what does it mean?
geolocation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Yeah. So I get it. It's just
So Ted, what good is a rank tracker if the majority of searches for your product or service, whatever it happens to be, are not new searches? people look every week for a different Italian restaurant or when they're traveling, or
If
when
they're
they're not
logged
looking
in,
for, they're not looking for a new roofer every week, but if there was just a hailstorm, they may look several times for roofers.
if they're logged in, their favorite one, according to their behaviors, is gonna rank well. And you're competing with their favorites. And so that's just the nature of personalization.
Yeah, but what he asks is what good are rank trackers
Yeah, so
then?
that means
Yeah,
that rank trackers aren't going to
they're
help at
less
all
good in that
because
case, but there's always going to be an
less
audience of
good is a way to put it. Yeah.
yeah, there's always at least going to be people who search something for a first time. Oh, I've decided I want to get a tattoo finally. I'm going to search for a tattoo shop.
So rank trackers should implement the 500 different accounts, and then they should always be a caveat. Well, then you have to also figure out personalization in regards to location. So you got to set that too. And there should be always be a caveat that, I mean, ethically, right? If you're running a rank tracker, Ted's rank tracker would say this is based off of logged in users whose geolocation is set for X, who have never clicked on this, and this is the first time they ever searched for
Hey,
this.
my incarnation has a lot more useful value than what we have today.
Yeah, but you go broke making it. It'd be kind of like making the testing tool.
It's not going to be a viable.
No, it's more akin to making a volatility tool that can use a sampling of logged in users. And so I think the engineering is not out of reach.
I don't think it's out of reach. I just from the like practicality.
Yeah.
You're doing single in your application for the volatility tool. I get it. I can see you working that in and how to set that up because you're doing one keyword check at a time. But if you're a rank tracking company, you ain't doing all that, man.
Well,
Unless,
advantage isn't for everyone. That's what I say to that. It's like you want to understand what's the situation. You don't want to get data that misrepresents a situation. I mean,
Well,
fundamentally,
I mean, the rank tracking company can signal that the sponsored carousel is there, that the styles carousel is there, that there's
yeah,
images there, featured snippet shows up, AI overviews. They tell you that it's there. It's right now. So based off your information, like all of these don't show up when they're logged in, but these guys have figured out how to see those using their current
if
system.
they're
So
yeah,
are they logged in already? You know,
well, no, they're showing the widgets incognito, headless Chrome. So those aren't necessarily even the widgets that the logged in users will see because like for shopping keywords, they completely change.
and then for the average user who we were really talking about, they'll change because of personalization. So
Yeah, but lots of people search things for the first time. And that's better data than you could otherwise get anywhere else.
So I hear what you're saying. What I hear you're saying is the current SEO tools, in particular in this situation, rank trackers, have a flaw. Here's your solution to it. However, my solution also has flaws. So figure out the best data that you can get a
all
hold
all
of.
tools fail. You're not going to get me to say, "Oh no, it's the perfect tool that can never fail." No, all tools fail. But better information is still better information,
Yeah.
and that should be the goal.
Which you should have because you actually did the search, in my opinion, before you even put it in a rank tracker and saw that this is here. But now you know, look at it signed in and look at it incognito and
Yeah,
is there a difference?
and what are your tools doing? Well, if they're using headless Chrome through a third-party API, they're looking at it incognito. Now, what's in that headless Chrome pool? It's bots and SEO tools. So you're seeing the SEO that is shown to bots and SEO tools. not necessarily the SEO that's seen by human beings.
But to Clint's point, if you look at if you do a search for your keywords and you say, okay, we want to rank at #1, but also we're going to have to make some videos because this search is populated with a lot of videos or images and so on and so forth. You're not hopefully relying on that ranking tool to say, okay, we can get to #1. It'll be down about what 7 would have normally been, but we can get you there. You've got to do the search, and like he said, part of your keyword research should be, does this keyword have 10 web pages on page 1?
Yeah, actually doing the search and going and looking and seeing what Google's looking for.
All right. Well, that is definitely a lot more about my topic than I wanted to share today.
I know. That's why I kept going.
So thank Clint for getting me to spill more info faster than I wanted to. But it's good that don't panic. People are going to make new technology and make it better. But just know that all tools, they have to change with the times. And right now, all our SEO tools aren't changing with the times as quickly as I personally would like, which is way before even the whole industry thinks about it. So I'm probably out of line on the pacing, and their data is suspect currently, is my opinion. But we all have to work with what we have until better comes along, because that's how the world works. All right, where'd we leave off here?
We're at an hour, and I know you wanted to get out of here, but there's a bunch of random questions, but there's two that kind of go back to what we were talking about before, which is pagination. One is I disagree with Ted about canonicalizing page 4, and then Paul Leary is, if you canonicalize every page of the pagination, isn't that having multiple pages on your site competing to the same query?
Yeah, but you know what your site has? Multiple pages competing for the same query. All right, it's just the fact. The thing you have to remember is page 1 is going to have more internal backlinks and probably more external backlinks. So your page 1 is going to have the authority anyway. So unless your backlinks are shit, it's a non-issue. But when somebody searches for something that appears on a page 4 product token, that won't appear because you screwed up canonicalization. That's unique content that you said was the same as page 1. So I guess fuck it. Don't make it findable. So I know which way I'd want to fail.
Yeah, I wanted to test it. That's why I was looking for a solution to override what the SEO plugins are doing, because I think that you can do a paragraph, the filler content that you add to your categories, and then link to your primary category page. We'll stick with categories in that paragraph, and that shows up on all the paginated pages. So I have this paragraph that's linking with the primary topic to the category page. So Google, rank this one. This is the one I want you to rank for this topic. But I also have these, and it has, because I set excerpts in blog posts, we'll stick with categories. So you have excerpts, and those excerpts, to Ted's point, change the content on the pages as it rolls through the pages.
Yeah.
You always have unique pages.
Your boilerplate is boilerplate.
Yeah.
It's not unique. So your unique content is different. Canonical URLs are for unique content. And that thing content safety text you're using is really to protect page 1. So it should really only appear if page equals 1, because you wanted it to help your top category page in the rankings.
Yeah, but that would be custom coding, and most people aren't going to do that.
Yeah, but they're shooting themselves in the foot,
I
making it duplicate content.
Well, I think to the
Oh.
point, there's testing out there that shows that as long as your page is what, 51% unique, it's unique. Remember that test from back in the day? I don't know if it's still relevant, but it's certainly it would roll into this conversation pretty easily. So if your boilerplate content is only 25% of your page and your posts or products or whatever, those changing creates 75% unique
You're
content. So
exactly right. They're all unique pages that need a canonical.
yeah, so that's why I want to test it. I think it makes complete sense to me in ecom. And if it applies to econ, then it makes complete sense that you would do it in WordPress. So where the hell did we go from?
Well, the
So,
consequence that Google implied for years now is that if your canonicals are wrong or bad in any way, Google ignores them.
mhm,
So if you want Google to trust them and to assign, authority and things to the URLs you're actually trying to SEO, then you need Google to trust them.
okay.
If Google ignores them, they'll do their best effort, which may work out just fine in your favor, but you're doing it wrong if you're burning your trust with Google.
So in regards to the pagination, like where the hell did that come from? Like, is that like the SEO agency or the SEO's overreaction to keyword cannibalization? And this is one thing that they were like, oh my God, we gotta fix this. Is that
Well,
how this whole canonical pagination to the
it's
primary page showed up?
more representation in search because if you're canonicalizing, then you can only have, the one canonical URL and rank. But if you're not, you'll probably have category page 1 and category page 4 before the URL filter kicks in, ranking. And
Yeah, I
2
get
is better than 1,
no,
you
I
know?
get the increased opportunities for doing it your way. I'm asking when and why did the SEO community decide that doing it your way is the wrong way?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I went with the docs. There are technical specification for canonical tags out there. You should read it. I think people didn't read the manual.
Makes sense. No, I get
And
it.
you're welcome to disagree with me. If you have a different thing that works, it's hard to argue with what works. It's just that hasn't worked for me at scale, so I don't do it.
I don't think they're disagreeing. I think it's more like it goes against conventional SEO knowledge, right? Terry, you've been around since dirt was walked on by Jesus. You've heard the same thing I have. If you have category pages, the paginated pages should be canonicalized to the first category page to
But
prevent
I've also
keyword
been told how
cannibalization.
many characters you should have in a title tag, and they're just wrong. So just because it's common knowledge among the SEO community doesn't mean there's a good reason for it or that it's correct.
Right, but you can't just, I mean, depending on your influence in the community, you're not just going to go run around and tell everyone they're wrong, right? So you have to have some kind of test or some kind of proof or some kind of, like you showed today, real world application of this being set that way to justify what to I don't want to say justify, but to support your argument for doing it that way. So it's interesting to me. Like those two, Paul and MD, they had the same reaction I did originally when Ted first were talking about this. Like that's not how everyone says that's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
But when you hear
And
your arguments about why you should do it the way you're saying to do it, it all passes the common sense test. So
yeah, for 17 years, I was thrilled to see my competitors doing it wrong.
yeah.
So, by all means, carry on. Um, let's see. You said there was one more?
No, I combined
It was
those.
just those
Oh,
two
okay.
little comments.
Well, let me do one more and then I'll apologize to everyone. Um, let's see. Would you build backlinks to blog articles and then those articles link to your money pages? Thinking of doing this, but not sure if it'll work well. Any thoughts? If the blog is a separate domain name, that would be my first consideration. So if the blog is on its own domain, then what you have is tiered link building. And I love that because it won't cannibalize your money site. And you can target a lot of the same keywords. And so that's a lot safer, in my opinion. If your blog is part of a store and on the same domain name, that can be more problematic as you try to make it scale. And oftentimes those are the messes SEOs have to go in and clean up, are the cannibalization issues between blog and conversion funnel pages. Um, what do you think, Clint?
I think I mean, that's how I build my websites, right? So if I have a page about silver amethyst bracelets, and then I want to create a blog post about how to care for my silver amethyst
And
bracelet.
and then your category's no longer ranking and you have an article that doesn't show your inventory.
The blog's
Well,
on a
not
subdomain.
necessarily true. I could link
Blog's on a
to both a
subdomain, so
category
it's okay.
page and I can link to
Well, I
product
know you
page.
can, but the thing all these online stores are fighting is they don't have that. And
Well,
so
that's
if you're
because they have
fighting
owners that go, Jesus,
cannibalization,
Jesus, take the wheel, and they're writing crazy ass blog posts and
yeah.
wondering, why are your SEO not working? Why do you keep making me delete 90% of the shit that you're putting in your blog?
So if you know what Clint knows, you can do whatever you want. All right. But if you don't know what Clint knows, you probably want to separate the blog from the store, and that way it's a lot harder to do harm.
I mean, I think it's not that to to your point, yes, having a subdomain separate from the store is a separate website, and it creates some new and unique opportunities, especially if Google changes the user intent of a search result from products to information or information to products. You've
And
addressed
And I
both.
don't like the subdomain thing because Google's not going to whitelist them. So you would get, potentially one store and one blog post, but as two separate domains, you could potentially hit your two URL limit on each. And that's four. Four results on page one. That's awesome. So, I think there are multiple ways, but there is a lot to consider. And the way everybody else do it isn't necessarily the most optimal. It might be the cheapest because it's out of the box on your platforms, but that doesn't make it the best.
So the lesson here is if you don't know what Clint knows and you don't know what Ted knows, start trying to think about how you can get to one of these conferences so you can talk to Ted or Clint and find out some of what they know.
And Clint takes on clients. So if you want to get to the front of the line, and Clint's very good at what he does.
I'm all right.
All right. Last question, Clint. How can people get a hold of you if they need your help?
Digitalear.com or Facebook. And I'm also checking LinkedIn more often these days. So. But
And how full is your roster? Are you nearly sold out?
I wish I could say I was, but no, I'm good. I could take on new projects for sure.
All right, so that isn't always true, people. That's actually uncommon. Normally, I send Clint leads and he tells me to fuck off. So now's your chance if you want Clint as an SEO. All right. Sorry if we didn't get to your questions. We ran out of time. We're here at about an hour and a half. We'll try to do more next time. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Good show.
Oh, one